Today we're going to be making our own color, shape, and line quilt that we're going to use some fun short lines that look like stitches to create some texture. We're also going to use some yarn to add some fringe at the bottom. I'm going to start by taking my paper and drawing some lines across it horizontally. And then I'm going to draw some diagonal lines as well to create some smaller kind of triangular shapes to break my paper up into smaller shapes that I'm going to color in with my crayons. I didn't make too many lines because I want more larger shapes than I do smaller shapes. If I create too many small shapes, then I'm going to have a lot to color in and a lot to decorate with different lines and patterns. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to pick the colors that I want, and I'm just going to start coloring in my different shapes with my crayons. I'm going to color them in all the way and make sure there's no white showing through. I can use any color I want. So I think I'm going to kind of use a little bit of every color. I'm going to try and color in each of my sections as neat as I can. Once I've got all of my sections colored in with all different colors, we're going to use oil pastels to add some textures and patterns on top of our crayon. We want to do this after the crayon because our crayon won't go on top of our oil pastel. So I can take all different colors and I can start to draw different lines and shapes to create patterns on my different colors. So in each section, I'm going to choose a different pattern to create and do those with as many different colors as I want to. So I can switch between my oil pastels and do all different colors, patterns, and lines and shapes all over. But I want to put some type of pattern in each little section that I created. Now that I've got a pattern drawn in each of my sections, I'm going to put all of my oil pastels away except for my black one. Then I'm going to go over my pencil lines to divide up the sections that I created. So I'm basically drawing a straight line where I had drawn my pencil lines, dividing each of the sections by a black line. After I draw the lines where my pencil was, I'm going to take my oil pastel and I'm going to draw short little lines on top of my long lines I created, so it makes it look like they are stitches from sewing. So you got these little lines that make it look like it was actually sewn together. So I'm going to do that on top of all of my black lines to create that fun texture to make it look like a quilt that was stitched together. Now that I've got all of my oil pastel patterns and the stitching done, we're going to take some yarn and we're actually going to tie some yarn to the end of my paper to give it some tassels or some fringe on the end. Now, I'm going to cut these pieces of yarn in half, but I have already done that for you because I don't want them to be too long. Then we're going to punch holes on the edge of our paper, probably about 6 or 7 holes on each side that we will tie our string through. I'll help you with this part. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my strings at a time. I'm going to thread it through the hole and try to make my string even on both sides. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisscross over the top of them to make an X. You can see that I created an X right there. Then I'm going to pull one string through to make it look like it has been braided, and then I'm just going to pull it simply like that. I don't want to pull too tight because I don't want to rip my paper, but I want to pull enough that it's tight on it but not breaking or ripping my paper. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the next piece of string, and I simply cross over the ends of my yarn. I loop it through and then I just pull it tight. We'll watch in slow motion one last time how to tie your yarn through the hole and get it tied in a nice knot. I'm going to string my yarn through the hole, and then I'm going to take the ends of my yarn and I'm going to crisscross them over on top of each other. After I've got them crisscrossed to make an X at the top, I'm going to take one end and I'm going to loop it through my hole or my little loop that I've made, and you can see how it starts to braid together. Once I've looped it through and you can see the braid together, all you have to do is pull it tight. And then you've got some awesome fringe on the bottom of your quilt. The next thing I'll do is I'll do the other side, and then we'll be all done. Once you're all done, you'll see that you have an awesome pattern and textured quilt with fringe on the ends of it that you can use to show all the lines, shapes, colors, and textures that you know. I can't wait to make the quilts with you guys.